Another element that's very common to Imagism and modern poetry is this term parataxis, from the Greek paratasine, meaning beside, para, and to arrange, to sign. So when images in poetry, as well as in experimental film and other genres, are set directly side by side in quick succession. So this allows for a new perception to arise from the relational arrangement of those images. We're going to talk about this specifically with Pound in just a minute here. Was there anything you wanted to add about? Sorry, there was some. You had a look on your face. You were thinking of like parataxis, maybe.
I often have looks on my face as I'm thinking about parataxis.
I mean, it's not. It's Pound didn't come up with it. I think is important to know. It's not unique to 20th century English language poetry.
Yeah, that's a really good point to make. And I think, too, I was thinking about what we've talked about in this module already about parataxis is what I was thinking about, and how we mention in the haiku form that parataxis is sort of inherent in the haiku form, that it's an image and another image, and they're placed side by side, and linguistically there's not a transition, so it's not this and then that, it's just this, that. We have one image and then the other image. They're side by side. There's no transitional language that clarifies how we get from one to the next. They're simply side by side. So that's both an image issue, but also a grammar issue, right? The parataxis in language is about missing transitional language, because we can put things next to one another all day long, but it's both two things next to one another that may not seem to go together without transitional grammatical language, and then it's sort of it engages a reader to understand the relationship between those two things. I think that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, and in this specific way that we're talking about it, as not providing that transitional language and with images, I would say, is more common to poetry than it is to prose.
Very much.
And important to the condensed work that poetry is doing.
Yeah, and in fact, if you were in my composition class, we would do an entire lesson on transitional language so that we could clarify how we're getting from one point to the next, because in functional language, that's really important. In poetry, the lack of that transition might be just as important.
Yeah.
It's not a mistake. It's the work that two images or two phrases are doing next to one another, and why or why not why they do or do not have transitional language between them is just as important. So it's not a mistake to not have that transitional language, as long as we understand the work that the images are doing without the transitional language.
Yeah, that's helpful, I think.